You can vote both sides.
Oh, that's right, Mark. That's right.
You're out for two today.
Two hats.
All right.
Yeah, 6 o'clock. Getting paid double.
Okay, 6
Tom.
o'clock. Yep, we're on here. At 6 o'clock, the joint meeting of the Safety Development Committee and the Community Development Authority will come to order. I will note that Alderman Weigel, Alderwoman Keene, and myself are in attendance. Alderman Haas and Alderman Tenorio are excused from Safety and Development.
Thank you. I also call the CDA to order. And would you play roll call for the CDA, please?
Wayne Clark,
Yes.
Gerald Motter,
Present.
Jim Lozinski,
Present.
Alderperson Weigel,
Here.
and then it looks like Karen Gale
Is excused.
is excused, Don Niemer is excused, and Alderman Haas is excused.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Okay, we have two items of business on the agenda for both committees today. Item one is a discussion of proposed Third Amendment to the Development Agreement between the City of West Allis and Cobalt Partners LLC, Tax Incremental District 16 within the 70th Street corridor.
And these are the same items for Community Development Authority as well. Before I begin, I just want to introduce Jen Posek, who's our new Economic Development Specialist on our Economic Development team, in our department.
Hi,
So
Jenny.
she's joined our team. And she's actually been working really hard on the job fair that's happening on Monday at 9 a.m. till 2. It's for the hospitality business industry to help people this is one of the segments that's really looking for help. And we partnered with MATC, Employ Milwaukee, and Lutheran Social Services to help have a tabletop job fair. So, and they're working with prospects on their resumes or any type of application as well. So it's a great partnership, and it is a result of the recent business survey that we completed on the community too. So,
All right. But I'll have to read the beginning of ours as a resolution.
yeah, you can read the rest.
All right. Excuse me, Tom. I'm going to have to add to the first item, the CDA resolution related to consideration of proposal of the Third Amendment to the Development Agreement between the City of West Allis and Cobalt Partners LLC, Tax Increment District Number 16, within the South 70th Street Corridor, West Corridor.
You can
Thank
read
you.
the next resolution as well. Both of these are kind of related.
All right.
So we're going to take them up together.
Okay. Item 2, resolution to approve a limited guaranteed amendment between the City of West Allis and Waukesha State Bank on behalf of Cobalt Partners in and entirety for the construction of a home two-suite hotel within Tax Increment District 16 within the South 70th Street Corridor, Alice Yards redevelopment area.
Just for clarification purposes, it's an affiliate or an affiliate entity, so that's yet to be determined.
Oh, I missed.
So it's Cobalt Partners, it's just a legal thing, as when they get closer to the formation of how the hotel will be developed, they create a separate entity to develop it and a separate entity to run the hotel, so that's just a legal aspect. So tonight, we're going to discuss the Home 2 Suites, as was mentioned in the resolutions, and the request to provide a municipal guarantee of up to $4 million to help advance a $20.9 million proposed construction of the hotel within our Allis-Chalmers redevelopment area. As you might be familiar with this area, it's the old office building area of the Allis-Chalmers site that was raised in late 2020. And this project was approved back in 2019 in anticipation to get construction going in that time. And then we had a little bit of a slowdown and extra costs, and then we ended up with COVID. So now we are here today because Waukesha State Bank has agreed to provide financing with some requests for the guarantee, and we're going to kind of outline where we've been and where we're going with this project and how we can help do this project. So overall, Cobalt Partners has purchased close to 18 acres, not million acres, but 18 acres, generally land that was tax exempt, except for the old office building, which had a low value, a declining value at the time because of the vacancy within it. They've invested over $14 million into phase one, which is pretty much reskinning the 1205 building and doing improvements within the 1135 building, which is the beige building to the right. Today, occupancy is stabilized. They have the Gage event space in the beige building to the right, and there's tenants within the 1205 building, and it's offered a great amenity, or great look to the South 70th Street area, as well as they've improved the streetscape to align with the development as well. Here's the inside of the Gage.
Such a nice place.
Seeing it converted, this has become a pretty large, significant. I've been seeing their images on billboards around the Metro Milwaukee area. They're marketing the area. It's attracting a lot of new people to this corridor. People who also are looking for a place to stay. So like the synergy within our downtown district, the hotel, and this type of use is important. We met in 2020 and we did a TIF amendment in which we provided $3.3 million of financing. Generally, most of it came through the New Market Tax Credit Entity Fire. And we loaned these funds to the developer because of increased environmental and demolition costs. And this was because this was a large scale redevelopment, large unknown parts of this building that weren't seen through the environmental investigation, and there were increased costs that they needed assistance with. Today, this area is cleared and ready for development. So I'm going to talk about what's the next part of the status of the project and the outline of the municipal guarantee, and then formulate our recommendation here to both safety development and the authority. So we've seen images of the office development in the plans. There's 300,000 square feet of office that's projected. Now, COVID impacted office, so this area is continuing to be marketed by the developer. But as you can see, that is the long-term vision, is to get this type of use in this area. The hotel was approved in September of 2019 by Plan Commission. Common Council approved the special use, and the building plans were reviewed and approved last July. So technically, I think there's just a few more pieces of paper and they can get their building permit to build the hotel. So they are set to go in that perspective. Plan Commission also received a conceptual residential plan. Plans to go to Plan Commission for the residential. It's around a $24 million development of around 160 units. This was part of the Alice Yards vision in the plan. We are not ready to go to Plan Commission yet on that. We have a meeting with the developer tomorrow. But conceptually, you can see here the image of that. And then again, I mentioned the office space impacted by COVID. They continue to market it, and this is another image of the residential. We have a few things that we need to work through on this. We do not have performers on this yet. It's just early conceptual images of this particular aspect.
Both sides are residential in that image, potentially?
Both buildings would be residential. And the beige, or the area that you see in the back here that's kind of faded, these are residential buildings with commercial on the lower level. So these are the parking lots that are along South 70th.
Yeah, but those aren't moving forward yet.
We don't have,
No.
we have conceptual images, but nothing of getting to the next step.
Okay.
So it would be hotel first,
Hotel,
and then these two.
that's the next
That would be the
phase.
next.
So I wanted to bring it
Yeah,
because
no.
it's important to note that there's other development on the horizon.
Yeah.
And where's the hotel going?
Right across.
Go back to that other picture.
It would actually be right in this general area, across from the gate, directly across from the gate.
Yeah, yeah, so go back to where you show the residential.
Mouse is there.
So the hotel would be like over here.
Oh, I see.
right?
Okay.
Because this is 70th.
Yep, all right.
This is 70th and Greenfield's down here.
Okay.
Washington, right up there on the
This is-
corner.
yeah, the hotel would be over here.
Sorry about that, I should have put an image in here of that. One of the other things that we're working on right now is when we did the initial financing of the demolition of the building through the TIF, the first stage, we provided around $7 million in financing. So that financing was through the state trust fund, so we're in the process, working with Jason to refinance that. And if we refinance that, that would save close to $2 million of interest costs. So it goes from 4.5% probably down to around just shy of 2%, I think, in our projections, correct? So we are working on that, and that's something that has to be completed before, I believe, September, in order to pay that state trust fund loan off. They don't allow any payoff of the state trust fund loan between September and December. So in order to get this interest savings, we have to expedite that, and that process has begun. So at this point, the lending industry is still constricted because of the COVID impacts. Hotels are picking up, travel's picking up as we see in the headlines, but their portfolios, if they look at their hotels, they're not performing to where they had them pre-COVID. So the lending is still tight on that market. Waukesha State Bank is willing to finance the hotel. I'm going to show the capital stack here in a minute. They have provided marketable terms in a structure that is within market as well. We had SB Freeman look at the terms and everything with us, and they agree that that's within terms. The guarantee is the nuance that is the challenging part, but one of the unique things here is not only are they willing to finance, they're also willing to pay for the tax credits that Fire is looking to allocate to the project. Fire is our city's new market tax credit entity, and they're willing to allocate $19 million in new market tax credits to help advance the hotel. So that will provide close to $5.7 million of equity into the capital stack. So the capital stack looks like this. Waukesha State Bank providing what we call the A note at $5.6 million, MADC, which is Milwaukee Economic Development Corporation, that has a loan pool through Waukesha State Bank that's willing to put the money into this structure. Waukesha State Bank would then loan $4.5 million, but this is usually where they would have a participating lender, and that's where it's really hard to get another lender to come into the structure. And this developer, since last year, has been approaching other banks nationally to try to find another partner if possible. But it is a tight lending market, and he had it's something like a brokerage firm go out and look to see if there's other entities, and the interest rate came back to the point it was the project wouldn't be feasible. So the it's $4.5 million here, but what we negotiated down, it's $4 million today, but and there's more equity from the developer going in. But this is the general capital stack for the project. So if you look at the projected assessment values, the assessments of Brookfield and Menominee Falls are the top two here. They're around $8.7 million. Hampton in here is 2019, but I think the most current value is around $9 million on the Hampton. It went down, it was at 13, and then they appealed, and it came down to around 9. Holiday Inn Express in our city is around 9 million as well, almost 10. They're projecting by the time this is completed, it'd be around 11.8 million of assessed value. And our projections, we're using 10.2. That's where we, just being conservative so that we can see how the TIF model would work.
They don't have to guarantee this assessment.
So we have a guaranteed assessed value in the overall development agreement of the current phase of $25.1 million. So we're at around 12 million, I believe, right now. I think the current assessment row showed 14, but in our models for equalize and all that, it comes out to around 12 million.
You're saying current, that's the stuff that's been done
That's
already.
currently turned from zero
Yeah.
tax base that's
Went from
owned by the
zero,
school
yeah.
to taxable. So we've gained in that perspective.
Yeah.
And then if we build the hotel, it's another 10.2. So we're very close to the 25.1. So therefore, there won't be any shortfall payments that the developer would have to pay. In this current model right now, without the hotel, would have a significant shortfall. I'm going to get into that in a little bit. But the Home2 Suites, which is an extended stay hotel, this is from Brookfield and Menominee Falls. Their average occupancy for March and April, and their average daily rate, that's an ADR. That's what they're getting per day. And then I show here May and June as well. You can see that we've seen an uptick in the market. We're seeing higher occupancy. The rates are going up, which also leads to, by the time this hotel is done, this should be a stabilized market, returning into the hospitality industry. So, the questions now is what are the options, right? The question of, do we have to provide this guarantee? No, we could wait and do nothing. That is true. We don't have to do this. What are the impacts? Well, one, we would lose $10.2 million of potential value. Fire would have to most likely reallocate their new market tax credits to a project that would go forward. So we can't hold those credits and wait for another day. We have a bank that's willing to not only lend to the project, but buy the tax credits as well. They could decide to not participate in the loan or not be available in the future. So it causes some challenges that way. One of the big things is the longer we wait, we lose the time of the TIF. And then we also lose the opportunity to gain room tax. And I think that's, I estimated just quickly, around $250,000 annually if they have 70% occupancy. So, I mean, it's a lot of money that can be gained from room tax. You know, the loss of the current bank I mentioned, the development would face larger issues, such as the shortfalls. So as I mentioned before, the 25.1 is the guaranteed value, and if we're below that, he has to guarantee that. That's a large penalty payment, as well as the developer has guaranteed our debt service on our current debt. Now, if we refinance, that exposure goes down, but if we didn't, we would have close to almost a $500,000 debt service payment that he would have to pay. And you put those two numbers together, that's a lot of development money for a private developer that doesn't offer a return. So that causes bigger challenges with the overall structure of the development agreement. So again, the economics, the opportunity costs of gaining $10.2 million, potential taxes on the hotel of $275,000. With the hotel, we're very close to that assessed value, which is great. And then with the potential development on the horizon of the residential, that would be a plus as well. The debt service and the assessed value shortfalls, they're there. We have a development agreement that says that, but that's a lot of money for a private developer that would have to come forward with. So that would challenge our position. Right now, in our development agreement, it states that the hotel was supposed to start by June 30th of 2021. But in the third amendment that we're going to be discussing, we'll extend that to the end of this year. So the use of time and the revenue from room tax, you know, the economics of this, of not going forward, it's definitely a lot of risk for our TIF and lost opportunity for the city. And the synergy with our downtown, et cetera. If the city provides the guarantee, well, we're leveraging a lot of private investment, not only from the bank, the developer, and the new market tax credits. So we're putting these resources together to help advance this. We've negotiated the municipal guarantee. So what is the guarantee? It's essentially like we're almost co-signing on a debt for the developer. If the developer fails, then they would come to the city and ask us to provide that payment. The developer, you know, in this particular case, and Kale can maybe outline this a little bit further of the exposure, there is exposure. And if they don't perform, we could be asked to come up with $4 million. We'd have to borrow that money. We'd have to come up with another development scenario that would produce increment to pay for that debt. That is true. But at the same time, we've worked this out in terms of the terms of the guarantee, which I'll show here in a second, and how this is structured. It has the potential to dissipate in 4 years. So it essentially will go away in 4 years. They build the hotel, they get up and running, and then it hits certain benchmarks, that guarantee is reduced. Again, on this particular side, if we do this, yes, there's the financial exposure, the shortfalls are reduced, we get closer to our guaranteed value, we leverage the tax credits, we gain not only the room tax dollars and the taxes here, we keep this TIF and momentum going within this redevelopment area. So the terms of the guarantee, essentially, as I mentioned, we're protecting the bank's debt in this particular case, but only if this deal doesn't perform. With the amount of money that's going in, it will get built. That's the big thing. It'll get built. The big thing that changes is once it's built at occupancy, the guarantee is reduced to $3.5 million. So from 4 down to 3.5. Then there's something called a debt coverage ratio. What that is essentially is the NOI from the performance of the hotel divided by the debt payment to the bank equals your debt coverage ratio. So there are these benchmarks. So it's reduced to $3 million if the hotel hits 1.35 debt coverage ratio over a 12-month period. If it goes up to 1.5, it goes to 0. And both of those can happen simultaneously. So potentially up to 4 years, and that's probably a very conservative estimate. If they get to stabilize in the first year, we could be done with our guarantee. So that is one of the unique things of this. So if the hotel would need to function at 50% occupancy to hit 1.5% debt coverage ratio. As I showed before, this type of home 2 suites extended stay was at 70%. So, that's more established hotels, but that's a sign of where this place operation could be. And that 50% was really close to COVID levels. So that's assuming that if we have another pandemic and they were at 50% occupancy, we still would be hitting our 1.5% debt coverage ratio. So as we mentioned before, 4 years to possibly release the city of the guarantee. The other unique thing here is the following notice of demand. So the bank says, no, we haven't got payments for 4 months or a month, we're gonna call the note. And the city has 180 days then to come up with the $4 million. You know, Jason will be working hard to get that, or the common council as well. But you can see that, you know, that is how that would go into effect. Now, the thing to premise this with is we've taken on a lot of risks as the city on projects as well, whether it was Summit Place, investing in that and waiting for office tenants to come, or purchasing property in the 6 Points and holding it and waiting for development to come. So we've taken on debt and risk too. This is a little bit unique in its structure, I understand that, but at the same time, these are unique times, and it might require a unique solution to help advance development. So in our structure, in our agreement, not only in the development agreement, but before the guarantee, we're gonna require that they provide us access to their financial statements on the hotel. So semi-annually, we either have a consultant just look at them, making sure that what's happening so that we don't get caught off guard, and we can kind of monitor what's happening with the hotel. The other thing is, for providing the guarantee, we're going to require a 4% guaranteed amount, a one-time fee of $160,000. This is very typical in the lending industry. You go to a bank, they charge a 1% origination fee and this fee. By the time you're done, you have a list of fees. The SBA, if they provide a guarantee on a loan, which is many what private businesses do or through banks, is get an SBA guarantee. That's usually between 3.5% to 3.75%. So we're above the SBA. We originally asked for 5%. He came back at 3%. So it seemed like a good solution, negotiation point to go with the 4% guarantee. The provisions of the development agreement also are in place, the cost savings and the profit sharing. So we're going to require that also goes over to the new entity as well, and that they sign on to that aspect of it for the development agreement.
Patrick, who pays the $160,000?
The private developer.
Developer does.
And what that money would be then used for is held just in case something would come up and we had to go legally after this. And if we're released of that guarantee, then that money would be available in the TIF, and the TIF pays off sooner. So it's like a profit to the TIF or revenue.
So that would, if all goes well, that money goes to the TIF,
Yeah.
the taxpayers.
Yep. So at the end, with anything with a TIF, and when we formulate our recommendation, we'd like to use the but-for clause. Would this go forward but for this? You know, it's really true that this project would not advance without the guarantee. I mean, they could go out and try to find another bank. That's available. But it's going to take time, and they've been doing that for the last year, trying to find another bank. The ability to leverage investment, that's something that I really appreciate in this particular case of the capital stack and the new markets going in, and it seems like that's going to help advance this to the finish line. The type of hotel is performing better in the market. So what that means is the extended stay format versus like the Holiday Inn, they've seen a higher occupancy rate, and that's what both our consultant has said and the market study that the developer has performed. We consulted with SB Freeman and looked at the returns and performance, and they are in line with the market. So at the end of the day, our recommendation is to proceed with the guarantee. I know that you probably have questions, and we're glad to answer those. And if you want to consult with the city attorney, we do have the ability to go into closed session. But we want it, because this is going to be put on July 13th common council meeting, have an open discussion on this. This is very important for the community in both ways, not only on the risk or exposure, but also to advance the development on South 70th Street.
Go ahead, Mr. Clark.
Thank you. Like you referenced, Patrick, the city has taken a lot of risk, and the rewards have been great. And I fully appreciate that, having been around the CDA since 1989 when it was launched. And yet, I think we need more eyes on this to make darn sure that we're not being taken advantage of. We need developers. Developers are critical, But developers always hand their hands out, as you expect. That's their business. Get the best deal for themselves. And I'd like to make sure we get the best deal for the city. As I mentioned to you on the phone the other day, my son from out of town stayed at the Holiday Inn on Lincoln last week. And while we were there, I used the opportunity to talk to the manager about occupancy because CDA recently forgave interest. I didn't agree with that, but the majority did. And I asked about occupancy. The reason they were pleading for relief is because the DNC convention didn't appear, and there have been all the COVID issues, and occupancy was down. But I was told that their occupancy frequently is at 100%. And so I think we have to be darn sure that we have all the best people, outside consultants and others, look at this stuff so we don't get taken. And I think we were taken on Holiday Inn. But I happen to, by the way, back to my original comment, I support the risk reward. I want big hits. I want us to take bold steps, but we have to protect ourselves.
Patrick, didn't we have the star reports for the Holiday Inn and for Brookfield and the other one, Wauwatosa? So we know what the occupancy is factually. I mean, it's not, we knew that what the Holiday Inn occupancy has been for the past year. And yes, I'm sure, Wayne, that you're correct, that recently they probably are 100% full at times.
That's what it is recently, yes.
Yeah, but, you know, they were looking for relief for the past year because they couldn't meet their, they couldn't meet their payments. And they had shortfall. And so that's why we wanted to help them.
Patrick?
So I think we have experts, excuse me.
sorry.
I think we have experts looking at it, and you've had Friedman look at it too, right? So I feel comfortable with the experts you've had looking at it, plus our city attorney and our finance director.
Right.
Dina?
You said that they are close to having their building permit?
Yes, as of today, I checked, and Shelley verified that she's reviewed their building plans and approved it last July. So pretty much, I think all they have to do is come in and pay for the permit, and they can start.
And we know that they have contractors ready, like, this gets approved, they're breaking ground, they're underway, they are going at this, or, I'm a little bit on timing, you know, okay, it'll be 1 year for this, 3 years for this, but I want to make sure that the fire's kind of lit under their butts too, and I'm sure they're itching to go.
So the
but-
new market tax credit call started, and it's on hold right now until we can, if we feel as a community, if we can do the guarantee. So that usually takes 60 days in itself for a new market tax credit closing. And one of the investors is the construction company.
Oh,
It's American Construction.
that helps. Thank you.
Go ahead, Alderman. You have the
We're
floor.
all done up front?
Yeah, go ahead.
Patrick, you had said it's a bad lending market right now. I disagree. Everybody's getting money right now. Everybody. Could it be this guy's just a bad risk? He's been on to 4 banks already. And we keep hearing from you, and maybe I missed it, because I do miss a lot of things, that we were going to get I believe it's a performance from this guy, from Young, as to what he's does, worth, and everything. He could have 2 cents, or he could have $2 million. We don't know, Patrick.
We have the perform on the hotel, but we did sign a confidentiality agreement on it, so I can't disclose too much here, but we did have SB Freeman review it, and that's right, I shared that they said it falls in line with all the market returns and things like that. Now, we did, when we first started the development, we did look at his net worth. We can probably get an updated financial statement on that, so it's a number of people investing in the hotel, though. I think there's 12 different entities investing in that, American Construction, the Kenseth Corporation, et cetera. And those have known, you know, that they've represented to us, they have 155 million net worth to the city. So they shared that with us on a couple of occasions, and combined, all the investors.
Could you share that with us?
That's all it is. It states I have the investors have 155 million in net worth. That was the document that was on.
And then, in one of your slides, you said Yelk has 14 million into the project already.
In the first phase.
Does that include the 3.3 million that we lent him the first time or gave him and the 7 million state funding that you showed in your earlier slides?
No, most of that money that I mentioned was for the acquisition of the buildings and renovation of the buildings on the
west
west.
side.
And I think one thing Alderman wrote that,
And the acquisition of the east building.
that you mentioned was the fact that everybody's getting money. Everybody is not getting money. Hospitality industry is not. I think if you look, the brewery, Opa Brewery here had a lot of trouble getting money because they were hospitality industry. Anybody related to hospitality industry today, because of the effect they took during COVID, the banks are not looking favorably on them at this point. I'm going to say a year from now, they're going to be looking very favorably at them. But right now, they're not.
Yeah, I mean, Hope's not really the same type of use, but
No, it's hospitality though.
it's hospitality, and we went to 25 different banks and
Yeah.
got one. So, I mean, and the lenders actually did have equity. So here we have the equity of new markets, we have a TIF, it's an opportunity zone, and it's still difficult to obtain financing for a hotel. Because they're looking at their portfolios and seeing how they're performing, and if you look back 6 months, which is to a year, which is you usually gotta look at 1-2 years back, they're gonna have that hiccup. And it's even hard for, right now, SBA guarantees on
Yeah.
a hotel, so.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Alderman
I just
Weigel.
want to make one comment. I support this project. I think what we've seen a lot in all industries, there are loan specialists, and they specialize in an industry. And everybody that's got a fat portfolio of hospitality, whether it's restaurant or hotel or whatever, they've really gotten burned. So I think that's why it's been difficult for him or any developer to probably get a loan in the hospitality side. Honestly, I think we're at the right point at this. I mean, I'm not happy that we had to get here, but interest rates are still historically low. I think we've already seen that construction costs are starting to come down. The lumber's down apparently 50% from its high,
How much?
50%.
Yeah, 50%, you're right, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, well, at least that's what we hear.
Yeah, right.
I've not been to Menards
anyone buy
I'm
lately.
looking at the
2x4?
futures.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the futures
Okay.
market, and
But
it's down
the point
exactly
is,
half.
you know, I mean, do we know if so this has to go to council also?
On Tuesday, yes.
And if this goes forward, what is we projecting for groundbreaking?
Well, I
Yeah,
would
but
say within the 60 to 120 days
Okay.
that we would be advancing the project, or he would be advancing.
He
the
would be,
project.
okay. Yeah, I'm excited about this. I mean, like I said, I'm not glad that we're in this position, but I think we're finding a way through this. So.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Alderman.
if I may put two people on the spot in this room, Jason, your thoughts? If you were lending the money, if this was the city of Jason Kazmarek, and I apologize for this, but this has a lot of risk to me.
Sure. Well, my initial feeling when this first came up is, how could we possibly do this? We're going to be on the hook for $4.5 million, which was the original estimate. And my initial impression was no, there's just no capacity to do that. However, as we talk through this and we see that this style of hotel is doing well, it has been doing well and continues to do well, I think it's a fair risk and a good return for the city. So I'm okay with it.
Mr. Decker, do you have an opinion? Again, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I guess I just did.
Do we want to wait for closed session?
You were mentioned a couple times up front, so.
Closed session for any of this?
In open session, I will say that the deal's been structured so that the city's risk has been minimized to the extent it can be, but
I don't want to hide the fact that there is some risk to this. There are other parties involved that are guarantors as well. However, the city could easily become the one who actually pays the bill at the end of the day if that occurs. And it's also public knowledge that our development agreement would likely be in default if that would happen. And so it would be a pretty severe and significant thing if the city's guarantee was actually called. That would mean this project is dead, that means the developers are likely out, and it'd be a very significant negative outcome. The bank would be taking the property back through foreclosure. So it's a doomsday situation for the city to pay this guarantee, or to ever have been called in this guarantee. But, I mean, no one thought COVID was going to happen. I'm sure a lot of deals blew up because of COVID. You can't foresee the future. As far as risks go, given the city's current risks it's taken on with this project, this is a reasonable next step.
Thank you,
I can
Mr.
go to more
Disick.
detail in closed session if there are more specific questions.
Mr. Clark?
That's, Council, that's where I was going to go. You said that was your open session discussion. I think we should go to closed session to hear what you have to say.
Sure.
Then that rest of the story.
Paul Harvey, good day.
Old guys.
Should we do that?
Sure.
Sure.
Patrick, are you done?
You done with your presentation?
We are done with the presentation.
Okay. Then for agenda items 1 and 2, the committee may convene in closed session pursuant to provisions of section 19.85, parent 1, parent E of the state statutes for the purpose of deliberating the investing of public funds whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. This committee may reconvene in open session after completion of the closed session to consider the balance of the agenda.
We have to wait for that to say off air.
So moved.